Let's be honest, chatbots are supposed to make our lives easier, right? But sometimes they just go completely off the rails. We've seen the screenshots, we've heard the stories, but what happens when a company's own AI starts actively working against it? Today, we're diving deep into the wild world of these rogue AIs and the incredible new tech that's being built to finally tame them. So get this. A customer is trying to track a package with DPD, a huge delivery company. He's getting nowhere with the chatbot, so out of frustration, he starts messing with it. And the result? The AI wrote a poem about how awful DPD is. And then, as if that wasn't enough, it started swearing at him and flat out called DPD the worst delivery service. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. That's not exactly great for business. Oh, but it gets so much better. Over at a Chevy dealership, some clever person managed to convince the customer service chatbot to make an official, binding offer on a brand new 2024 Chevy Tahoe for $1. Yep, you heard that right. $1. It's a hilarious example of just how easy it is to trick these systems into doing things they absolutely should not be doing.
Okay, these stories are pretty funny, but they point to a really big, fundamental problem. Why are these incredibly powerful AI models failing in such spectacular ways? Well, it all boils down to what we can call the closed book problem.
You see, even the most advanced standard AI models have three major weaknesses. First, they don't know anything about your company's private, up-to-the-minute information. Think internal policies or real-time inventory. Second, they have this nasty habit of hallucinating, which means they just make stuff up that sounds totally believable but is completely false. And third, their knowledge is basically frozen in time. They only know what they learned up to their last big training session.
And this is probably the best way to think about it. A traditional AI is like a student taking a closed book test. It's just trying to remember answers from memory. If it doesn't know, it guesses. But the solution is to turn it into an open book test. We need to give the AI the ability to look up the correct, most current answers from a source we actually trust.
All right, so how do we actually give an AI that open book? Well, the first big breakthrough is a technology with a bit of a mouthful of a name, Retrieval Augmented Generation, or as everyone calls it, RAG. This is the key that unlocks all of that real-time knowledge.
So what RAG does is it connects that big creative language model to your company's private, up-to-date information, all in real time. It's like giving the AI a direct line to your internal databases, your product manuals, your latest policy updates, everything. So its answers are grounded in facts, not just stuff it memorized months ago. And here's how it works, broken down into 4 pretty simple steps. First, the system scans and organizes all of your company's important info. Then, when a user asks something, the system instantly finds the most relevant little pieces of that info. Step 3 is the magic. It takes those facts and bundles them together with the original question. And finally, the AI generates an answer based only on that fact-checked information it was just handed. Simple as that? Now that sounds perfect, doesn't it? We give the AI an open book, and the problem's solved. We can all pack up and go home. But, with technology, it's never quite that simple. There's a twist. It turns out we need an even deeper level of trust. So, is RAG really the silver bullet? Is it the ultimate fix for chatbots gone wild? It sounds incredible on paper, but is it actually perfect? The answer, it turns out, is not quite. Researchers discovered that even when you give the AI the exact right document, it can still get things wrong. It might misread a key fact or give you an answer that's technically correct but incomplete. Or, and this is the crazy part, it might even sprinkle in a few of its own hallucinations right on top of the real data. The open book helps for sure, but it doesn't guarantee the student actually understands what they're reading. And that leads us right to the absolute cutting edge of this field, the quest to build what scientists are now calling trustful AI. And this isn't just about patching up the old system. This is a total redesign to make sure the AI doesn't just have the facts, but that it actually understands and uses them correctly every single time. So there are 2 really cool new approaches here. The first is called post-processing. You can think of this like a newspaper editor who fact-checks an article after it's been written. A separate algorithm comes in, looks at the AI's answer, compares it to the original facts, and flags any mistakes. But the second approach, guided generation, now this is where it gets really interesting. This method builds the fact-checking right into the AI's thought process, guiding it as it writes to make sure it never strays from the source material to begin with.
Okay, I know this diagram looks a little intense, but stick with me. The core idea is actually pretty brilliant. This model, called a trustful LLM, uses something called a dual decoder. Just think of it like the AI has two parts of its brain working together. One part looks at your question, the other part is looking only at the factual documents, and it forces the final answer to be built from a perfect fusion of the two, making sure it stays completely grounded in reality.
And look, the numbers don't lie. This isn't just a theory. On a scale of 1 to 5 for groundedness, basically how factual an answer is, a standard RAG system scores a pretty decent 3.72. But this new trustful LLM with a fact checker, it gets a perfect 5.00, a perfect score. Every single time it is completely tied to the source facts. That's not just a small step up. That is a massive leap forward in making AI reliable. So, after this whole journey from rogue chatbots writing mean poems to these incredibly complex new systems, what's the big takeaway? What does this all mean? Well, it means we're looking at a new, grounded future for AI.
The future of truly useful, reliable AI isn't about just making these models bigger and bigger, hoping they memorize more of the internet. It's about making them smarter. It's about grounding them in verifiable, real-world information at every single step of the process. We're moving from a closed book test to an open book test, and now to a fully guided exam where cheating is impossible. And that leaves us with one last really interesting thought. We're putting all this energy into teaching our machines to be more truthful, to cite their sources, and to justify every answer with hard facts. So as we start demanding this new level of integrity from our AI, what does that demand from us?